with asking you the question, and just to get right to it, has Donald Trump, through this war on Iran, brought us into the earliest stages of World War III? He's talking now about taking over the Strait of Hormuz, saying that while the war is almost about to be over, that there's a need to pressure Gulf countries into the war. And there's been, of course, a lot of volatility, not only on the military side, but the economic side as well, with oil prices just doing jumping jacks, with all of Donald Trump and his administration's mixed messaging here. So what's the seriousness of the situation as you've seen it now that we are about to enter the end of week 2 of this war?
I think we are in the early stages of War III. I don't think this war is about to end. It could, but what Donald Trump says is so inconsistent minute to minute. He doesn't explain anything. He just exposes his mental instability. So when he says that it's almost over, but let's escalate, this is par for the course. This isn't tactical. This isn't the madman theory. It's just a madman. We should understand that. It means that the world situation is extremely dangerous because the United States government, for the moment, is in the hands of a malignant narcissist who is losing control over any remaining inhibitions at all. You're on mute, Danny. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much. Professor Sachs, Donald Trump has, in the U.S., in Israel, of course, they had their objectives as the elimination of the Iranian government. It seems like those objectives have failed. How do you see the course of this war, given that now there's immediately global implications to all of this? And it seems like despite privately advisors telling Donald Trump to seek an off-ramp, that seems more and more difficult, especially with these objectives not being anywhere close to being met.
I think that there are two critical time dimensions involved. One, which the military analysts rightly point to, is the question of whether the anti-missile defenses will run out before Iran's missiles run out. And that is likely. So as the days go on, the capacity of Iran to inflict grievous damage to Israel and to the Gulf region will grow, most likely, from all that the analysts say. The second time horizon is the global economic crisis. Trump got spooked yesterday when oil prices soared to $120, so he made up something immediately to say, oh, the war is almost over, and that caused the prices to drop. It amazes me still how people listen to the words of that man. But clearly he was spooked, and he should have been spooked. We're on the way to a global economic catastrophe. Give it another few weeks, the production of gas and oil will be shut down. The facilities for transporting that gas and oil will be destroyed. The port facilities will be destroyed, and the Straits of Hormuz will still be closed. That is the underlying logic of the path that we're on right now. That will lead to a massive global economic crisis. So this is all about timing. If Trump were a sane man, what he said yesterday that, well, the war is almost over would be his excuse for just stopping, which is the right policy for the United States and Israel, by the way. But he's not a mentally stable person. And the US system is so broken that it's like Rome being in the hands of Nero or Caligula. You know, we're in the hands of instability. We're not an institutionalized constitutional system. We're actually in the hands of a kind of madness right now. So this is the real point that I'm hoping, of course, that somebody is able to prevail, maybe his chief of staff, maybe somebody inside, to say, Mr. President, why don't you sit down and take a rest and have a cup of tea and everything's fine, or you've won, everything's great, now stop the shooting and you'll be a hero. If someone would say these things, maybe that could happen, and that would save many lives and a lot of damage, and the world economy all wrapped into one. But it's not happening yet.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm wondering, Professor Sachs, if you could, given the importance of the Strait of Hormuz in all of this, how does this, Iran hasn't actually formally closed it. Iran has definitely threatened to close it, and the war has essentially brought it to a close. But Iran has said that if the U.S. Navy does what Trump is promising, which is to escort ships with the U.S. Navy, commercial ships with the U.S. Navy, that it will be ready for those ships. How catastrophic would this be? Because the Strait of Hormuz is I think 20% of the world's oil flows through there. And we already know that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, all these countries have reduced their oil production significantly because of the war.
Clearly, this would be a worldwide economic shock of enormous proportion. We've been through shocks like this, especially in the 1970s, both in 1973-74 and in 1979-80, the first around the 1973 war between Israel and its Arab neighbors, principally Egypt, and 79-80 around the Iranian revolution and all of the tumult that surrounded that. In both cases, the world went into an economic contraction. We had what was called stagflation, soaring prices, falling living standards, falling employment, falling output. This would happen again with any kind of prolonged continuation of this war. I don't think that it is feasible in the real time needed to save the world economy for the United States, even if it were wise to do so, to militarily defend the open seaways of the Strait of Hormuz. It's not feasible in the next weeks, probably in the next months, perhaps not really feasible in the long term. It's a narrow strait. Shooting at it shooting at the ships passing through is not difficult. The Iranians have said they're not letting ships through, and they won't, in my view. The whole military adventure was premised, it seems, on the delusional idea that a decapitation strike would change the regime. And this is par for the course of Trump's impulsivity and the lying of Israel, because Israel's strategy was to entice the United States into this action. It was Netanyahu's dream for 40 years, he's told us. So I'm sure that whatever Mossad told Trump was only good news. One day operation, everything will be easy. Trump's a fool, we have to understand. He's an idiot. He's heavily influenced by what he hears. He knows nothing in particular. And probably he was played by Netanyahu and by Mossad, and perhaps by his own CIA. We don't really know the inside story of this, but I don't think they have a military plan that is feasible and realistic within the time horizon of saving the world economy from a catastrophe.
Yeah, and Professor Sachs, Donald Trump recently just said that he was told by Jared Kushner that Iran was going to attack the United States first, and has even suggested that Iran had Tomahawk missiles itself to strike the school that killed, I think, over 150 young schoolgirls in Iran. Now, the war crimes are all out there for everyone to see. Even the New York Times and mainstream media are talking about this quite frequently now. How does this affect, given that you said we're in the early stages of World War III, how does this affect the world situation, how the U.S. has behaved here? Because over and over again, the Trump administration has essentially said the UN, any kind of international law just does not apply. And they're being very open about it, both in their behavior and words.
Trump seems to be in a state of delusion right now that he controls the world. Perhaps what he perceives as a great success of having kidnapped the president of Venezuela has convinced him of this. It's very hard to fathom what goes on in that man's head. And if he's listening to Kushner for his intelligence, well, it's even worse than I thought. And I did not know that that was the supposed source of the intelligence on this. Oh, my God. We're out of control, basically. And there are no grown-ups around anywhere within sight in the U.S. scene. Hegseth, Rubio, it's a mix of sycophants and incompetence that is absolutely stunning. And our constitutional system has collapsed. The Senate's basic word is, don't ask us. We don't want to get involved in any of this. We don't really need to know. We heard a lot of rumors that the military told Trump that it wouldn't work. Of course, we don't know what was really said, but it's quite believable. If that's actually the case as well, it shows how utterly, profoundly degraded the American situation is right now. There doesn't seem to be a process. There seems to be a son-in-law, a business partner, a bunch of grifters, a few sycophants, and a mentally unstable leader. This is not a great thing.
Yeah, no, it's not a great thing. And uh, maybe we can talk a bit about, given that the military situation in this conflict appears very much fluid, and Iran is showing a kind of, I think, a position where it really is demanding that not only is there cessation of hostilities, but that it is respected. And I think the position of the IRGC right now is security for one, not security for one, but security for all in the region. How is the rest of the world looking at this? Do you feel, Russia, China, Iran, this multipolar world that we talk about, they have, of course, expressed opposition to this, but how does this reverberate at a deeper level to this larger shift we're seeing in the world?
I doubt that there is a single country in the world outside of Israel and the United States that views this either positively or with complacency. My guess is that every country, even the ones that are supposedly most allied with the United States, are looking at this with a mix of horror and amazement. This is so brazen, so ill thought out, so dangerous, so provocative. It's hard to see how anybody could be taking solace from it or actually rooting it on in any way. Now, I wouldn't put it past a few world leaders who are the ultimate sycophants or completely dependent on Trump to root for the United this brazen destruction of the world system. But most countries of the world want this war to stop now. And I think that it can stop quickly if the collective action problem, let's put it that way, that faces the rest of the world is overcome. Nobody really wants to be the first one out of the gate to tell Trump you're crazy. Pedro Sanchez of Spain has done so bravely, rightly, and that's good. Others will be encouraged to follow. We're yet to hear from India, for example, which is rather shocking. But India is highly dependent on Middle East oil. It has the presidency of the BRICS. Sadly, Prime Minister Modi was in Israel just days before this attack. That's a little sad, frankly, from many points of view. But I think that if India properly leads the BRICS countries, Russia, China, Brazil, South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, of course, the Emirates, weird to say, is part of the BRICS, Indonesia, and says this has to stop now. This is madness. It's nothing more than madness. Of course, it's extraordinary ruthlessness and violence, but it's madness in terms of any kind of tactical or strategic calculation. This, I think, would have quite a significant effect, actually. It's not just words. If the world stands up and says out loud the truth, that this is a brazen US and Israeli attack on the whole world, because it will bring down the world economy, because it was completely unnecessary, completely unjustified, completely illegal, it would have, I believe, a significant effect. Maybe we will see that happening in the coming days. Trump tried, with some success, in the past 24 hours to talk down the reality by saying whatever he wanted to say. The war is almost over. The behavior is quite different. The behavior is that today was a dramatic escalation of bombing and of killing. And I think that even as Trump said, he's not going to do anything without consulting Mr. Netanyahu. And Mr. Netanyahu is not going to say, why don't we just go home? So this war is going to continue. The oil prices will spike again. The stock markets will crumble again. The question will be whether there is an ability of collective action by the rest of the world, which is the victim of this U.S. aggression.
Yeah, well, Professor Sachs, if this war is going to continue on for a significant period of time, is this the beginning of the end of the U.S. in West Asia, in the Middle East? Is the U.S. self-evicting itself? Because many have made the argument that Iran has one of its goals as being the U.S., of course, no longer being a presence that can wage this kind of war, not only on Iran, but the rest of the region. But is the U.S. also doing this to itself by engaging in this reckless war?
A war that is so dangerous and brazen and so ill thought out as this could end quickly because the whole thing is fatuous. Or if it continues, it could escalate into World War III, which is where I think we are more likely than not to be heading right now. In other words, the dynamics still, in my view, are dynamics of escalation, extremely dangerous dynamics of escalation. That's another reason, in addition to the coming economic crisis, why this needs to stop immediately. Of course, stopping the murdering and the mass killing by the U.S. and Israel is yet another reason. But I mean, the essential reason.
Professor Sachs, are you still there? I think I might have lost you. Are you still
Here
there?
I am.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah. No,
I don't know. But I was saying that the risk of this escalating
we already have been. Professor Sachs, you are back, so please finish your point. With
yes, I was making the basic point that we're still on an escalatory path, and therefore we're still on a path where this could expand to world war. Many countries support Iran. They will come in more to support Iran. The United States will call on its vassal states to do more. The destruction of the oil facilities in the Middle East will proceed. Iran will get more missiles through what is an increasingly porous Iron Dome of Israel. In other words, the dangers are manifold of an expanding conflict. And the dynamics, in my view, are still in that way. Sad to say.
Yeah. And then lastly, Professor Sachs, how do you see particularly Russia and China's view on this? Because many made the comments before the war started that Russia and China were firmly in support of Iran. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump spoke recently, and then there were rumors that Steve Witkoff had been trying to reach out to Iran, but with absolutely no dice. How do you see Russia and China's approach and viewpoint of this war and its significance as this conflict transpires and develops?
Russia and China understand that this is a war of American global hegemony, and that in particular, from the American point of view, I mean the deep state and Trumpian point of view, that this is a war to control the Middle East energy supplies and to run Iran, or to run it into the ground, but in any event, to control the Strait of Hormuz and the oil in the Middle East. Neither country would remotely find that acceptable in any way, shape, or form. It's a direct threat to the national security of both Russia and China. And so they are no doubt supporting Iran in many ways, with intelligence, with supplies, financially, and they will continue to do so. It's the most basic, logical point, especially since this is not, from a U.S. point of view, principally aimed at Iran. This is principally aimed at the global grand strategy of the United States, which is hegemony in every part of the world. And the U.S., in Trump's delusional mind, thinks, well, we already own the Western Hemisphere. We've already shown we'll beat the crap out of anyone that objects to us. We'll get Cuba to fall into our laps in any moment. Now we're doing it with the Middle East. Europe is too pathetic to matter. They're already in our pocket. So this is the U.S. calculation. This is a part of the puzzle of U.S. dominance, like the old game of Risk. You know, it's got, U.S. has its pieces on most parts of the board. From China and Russia's point of view, this is a very important part of the global chessboard.